échate leche, güey.
Get out of the way, bro.
I'm recording it, bro. I'm not. It's my family in here, bro. It's my family right here, bro. It's my family right here, homie.
Hey guys, wow. You wake up to what you think is thunder, but it's not. It's percussion grenades echoing off buildings, followed by the unmistakable click of zip ties and the low, barking orders of agents in black. You're on the 7th floor, downtown LA, and the protest line below has been a drumbeat of resistance for weeks now. You weren't expecting war at 4 a.m. From your window, the peaceful encampment looks like a battlefield. ICE vans have blocked off 2 intersections, their white decals glowing under streetlights. Protesters scramble, half asleep, some barefoot, some filming, others just crying out names trying to account for who's been taken. The banner that read "Families Belong Together" flaps under a riot officer's knee. And here's the kicker. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not like this. ICE had no warrant for this specific zone, no prior public statement. They moved in with stun grenades and long guns, dragging people across wet pavement like trophies. One woman shouts, "My son is a citizen." Another begs for her insulin. Someone else just keeps repeating, "I work here. I work here." You probably won't survive this, not because you'll be killed, but because something in you is going to be broken tonight. Something idealistic, soft. You won't believe in due process again the way you did yesterday. You won't say land of the free without your voice cracking just a little. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your location and local time in the comments. Let's see who's awake during the chaos, and let's go on the journey of today's story together. You glance again through the blinds. A kid's backpack is left on the ground open, forgotten, books spilled like someone tried to pack fast. 2 ICE agents laugh about something. One of them casually steps on a sandwich someone didn't finish. This isn't the America you were taught to recite pledges for. And tonight, ICE makes sure you won't forget that. It started with a memo. Buried in ICE's June 2025 updates, page 3, paragraph 14, a phrase that barely registered. Enforcement actions may coincide with high-traffic civic demonstrations. But the real trigger wasn't paperwork. It was people. For 2 weeks, crowds had gathered outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles. Signs waved in unison, "Abolish ICE, dignity has no border, protect dreamers." What had begun as a quiet vigil after a Guatemalan father was deported mid-asylum appeal became something more, a citywide movement of bodies and banners that demanded to be seen. You were there that Saturday, remember? A grandmother played guitar next to a local council member. Kids passed out sandwiches with homemade stickers. Chants rose and fell like hymns. And amid it all, agents watched on rooftops, from parked black SUVs, in silent drone footage fed to a monitor inside ICE's downtown headquarters. According to a Reuters leak, ICE labeled the protests a threat amplification zone. That's a real term, lifted from the Department of Homeland Security's urban unrest playbook. The idea? Where protests swell, enforcement softens its gloves, but not this time. The Los Angeles Times confirmed ICE's field office filed an exceptional authority clause to fast-track raids near federally adjacent properties. The spin? Necessary action to secure federal staff and facilities. The truth? A crackdown dressed up as protocol. ProPublica uncovered that internal memos had tagged 6 public visibility hotspots as prime apprehension zones, including the protest camp. None of this made the nightly news. What did was a neatly written ICE press release. Today's operations were conducted with full respect for safety and community norms. But you saw the girl tackled for filming. You saw the guy bleeding from his scalp because he shouted a name. And the strangest part? One ICE source told NPR they delayed the raid by 2 days, not for legal review, but because of drone interference from local filmmakers. Yeah, apparently a student project disrupted federal timing. You can't make this stuff up. No warning, no warrants, just boots, zip ties, and the muffled cries of people whose only weapon was cardboard signs. You don't notice Luis right away in the footage. It's only when someone posts a slowed down frame on TikTok that his story cracks through the noise. He's 17, wearing a yellow hoodie with a Dodgers logo, handing out water bottles from a crate near the curb. There's nothing heroic in his movements, just small, careful acts of care. He's not chanting. He's not waving a sign. He's just refilling bottles and stacking empties. Then two ICE agents break from the flank. One points, the other lunges. Luis doesn't run, he freezes, arms still halfway inside the crate. You can't hear what they say. The camera's too far, but you see the twist. His arm bent behind his back, the crate overturning, water splashing across the concrete like blood. Later, the footage surfaces on Instagram Live with the caption, "He was just giving water." Thousands of views, dozens of reshared reels. Still, nothing from ICE. His mother, Daniela, speaks through tears on a live stream from their apartment in Highland Park. He's a dreamer. He was born in Michoacan, but he's been here since he was 3. His paperwork's in process. He didn't do anything wrong. They didn't even call me. Luis had spent the last year volunteering for Mutual Aid Network, setting up community fridges, helping elders get rides to clinics. He never missed school. His dream was to go into social work, specifically to help families like his. All that disappears in less than a minute. By the time she gets the call, he's in transit, ICE won't say where. A lawyer tells her it's likely a secondary review facility, but there's no confirmation. Then the Guardian runs a piece with a leaked ICE transport manifest. Luis's name is on it misspelled, listed as 19. That mistake could mean adult detention, even solitary. Daniela clutches a printout of the manifest on local TV. He's a kid, she says. He had a juice box in his backpack. And the irony? The LA protest that night was calling for protections for minors caught in enforcement zones. Luis wasn't just a bystander. He was the reason people were marching. They called it Operation Shield Light, a name that sounded like it came from a video game or a summer blockbuster, not a coordinated ICE raid on U.S. soil. But the numbers weren't fiction. According to an internal report obtained by the Marshall Project, the operation was greenlit 7 days before the raid. ICE designated the LA protest corridor as Zone K42, one of 3 high-density migrant activity sectors nationwide under real-time surveillance. The raid's objective? Disruption and deterrence of unlawful presence through strategic apprehension, whatever that's supposed to mean. The facts spill out like glass from a broken window. 322 people were detained in a single night. Of those, 68 were minors. Track Immigration reported that 71% had no prior criminal record. 14 were U.S. citizens wrongly held and released only after community advocates filed emergency court motions. ICE's public summary, meanwhile, claimed all targets were identified threats to national security. An utter lie. There's more. NPR revealed that agents were instructed to collect not only IDs and phones, but also protest paraphernalia, shirts, signs, even Sharpies. One field note read, "Document affiliations, prioritize bilingual materials." That means ICE wasn't just arresting people, they were gathering intelligence on peaceful civil resistance. And while the agents worked under the pretense of law enforcement, the raid had an unmistakable political aroma. 2 of the protest organizers had publicly clashed with city officials. Their names appeared in DHS chatter, flagged by an anonymous whistleblower. One ICE officer on Reddit bragged that the higher-ups wanted this protest wiped before it spread to other cities. Even more damning was the body cam leak from an agent stationed at the protest's perimeter. You hear laughter. You hear one say, "Get the kid with the ponytail he was yelling last week." This isn't standard procedure. This is targeting. Remember how Luis's name was misspelled on the transport manifest? He's not the only one. Cal Matters found at least 27 detainees misclassified by age or citizenship. A clerical error or a calculated dodge of accountability? And yet the ICE homepage that morning read simply, "Protecting the Homeland." No headlines, no admissions, just silence where there should have been alarms. You're sitting on the curb now, your hands still trembling from the night before. Nearby, someone's dog barks every time a siren passes. In your lap is a crumpled leaflet from the protest, half a slogan visible under shoe prints. "R Pro," it says. You already know what it meant. Are protest zones now legal traps? It's not just a metaphor. It's a real question in legal circles. Civil rights attorneys are split. Some say ICE is within its jurisdiction. Federal law trumps local protection ordinances. Others argue these raids violate First Amendment protections, especially when time to break the spine of peaceful assembly. The ACLU released a statement the day after Operation Shieldlight, calling the raid a deliberate strategy to chill political dissent. On CNN, a former ICE agent pushed back. Look, you break immigration law, you're subject to enforcement protest or not. But that argument feels paper thin when you consider the context. The majority of those detained weren't even protesting. They were delivering food, filming, or just sleeping nearby. Then there's the ethical abyss. Who decides whose presence is lawful in a land built on stolen land? One protester, a retired Marine named Darian, posted a video the morning after. I fought in Fallujah, he says, face streaked with paint and sweat, and I've never seen federal force used this way against kids with signs. The video gets 3.2 million views in 24 hours. Meanwhile, ICE defends its actions. A spokesperson told the New York Post, "We respect the right to protest, but that right doesn't excuse illegal presence." No apology, no investigation, just a flat denial that anything was wrong. Yet the question lingers. When the feds choose to target a protest zone, is it about law enforcement or optics? Suppress one protest, discourage 10 more. Use fear as a vaccine against resistance. And while DHS lawyers prepare memos citing obscure statutes, Luis sits somewhere behind a chain-link door in Arizona, still waiting to call his mom. She's left voicemails on 4 ICE hotlines. No one answers. Is that law? Or is that control disguised as protocol? You see her every day now, Daniela, Luis's mom, leaning against a metal folding chair outside the federal building downtown. She's got a sling on her left arm, a plastic grocery bag at her feet, and a handwritten sign taped to the front of her shirt. Where is my son? The arm, a fracture. She slipped trying to chase the ICE van when they took Luis. She tripped on the curb and hit the pavement hard. That was 3 weeks ago. She still hasn't gotten the surgery. The community clinic said it's a non-emergency without insurance. But how do you work the register at a bakery when you can't lift a tray? Daniela hasn't been back since. Her boss gave her 2 weeks off, unpaid, and then stopped returning texts. The only people answering are volunteers. Local organizers have started an emergency fund, passing a plastic donation bucket between protest chants. Someone posts a screenshot of ICE's detainee locator system, showing no result for Luis, no file, no record, as if he just evaporated, but he didn't. The Marshall Project confirms Luis is being held at the La Palma Correctional Center in Arizona, 500 miles away. His intake form was processed under the name Luis M. Martinez, age 19, from unknown origin. None of that is true. He's 17, he's from Michoacan, he has a DACA application pending, submitted 3 weeks before the raid, and ICE has all of it on file. So why the lie? You start to see the pattern. Luis isn't a person in the system. He's a number, a slot in a quota, a body that satisfies metrics. According to ICE's July enforcement report, 90% of those detained in special operations zones were labeled detainable without need for individual adjudication. That's legalese for, we can hold you, no questions asked. Daniela now lives in borrowed time and borrowed clothes. A neighbor's daughter brings her dinner. Her pastor brings folding chairs. A stranger from the internet paid for her x-ray. What ICE hasn't brought, a phone call, an update, a reason. You remember the banner you held. It was painted the night before the raid, bold red letters on a bedsheet, fraying at the corners. No cages, no fear. You'd laughed while painting it, shoulder to shoulder with volunteers who brought their own brushes, their own stories. It dried under a street lamp, fluttered above chanting crowds, and vanished when the vans rolled in. That memory returns often now. In quiet moments, in the silence between news alerts. You think about Luis, about Daniela's broken wrist, about the girl in the blue hijab who live streamed the arrest and hasn't posted since. You wonder what they dream about now. Do they still dream? It's strange how easily your country can make you feel foreign. Not because of where you were born, but because of what you dare to believe in. You believed peaceful protest mattered, that signs and songs could protect people, that public spaces were sacred. But that night rewrote the rules. Now, when you walk downtown, the concrete feels colder. Security cameras blink from new corners. The coffee shop by the protest site is closed. Owner said it got too political. A mural that once said "Hope Lives Here" has been scrubbed down to blank gray. Even your friends are different. Some ask if you'll still go to the next vigil. Others say maybe it's time to lay low. One even said, "Look, it's sad, but Luis should have known better." You didn't respond. How do you argue with someone who's made peace with injustice? But still there are moments, small flickers, a candle left on a bench, a kid with Free Luis on his backpack, a woman who brings folding chairs to Daniela without being asked. Hope hasn't died. It's just gotten quieter, more defiant. It whispers now instead of shouting. And you hold that banner in your memory like a shield. You tell yourself you'll carry it again. You won't let silence write the ending. Because if you forget Luis, if you forget all of them, then you've joined the people who laugh when ICE drags children into vans. You're scrolling through your phone when the alert comes in. An email from a community defense network. Subject line, Luis released, but the story isn't over. The words blur for a second. Released, your heart skips. You tap faster than you can breathe. Luis is home, bruised, underweight, wearing the same hoodie he left in, but home. No official apology, no ICE statement. Just a text from a volunteer lawyer and a blurry photo of him hugging Daniela outside a Phoenix bus station. You're flooded with a dozen feelings at once. Relief, fury, something close to disbelief. You've been marching, shouting, writing his name on posters and sidewalks, and now he's out. But the system that caged him? Still here, still unaccountable. And if it happened to him, it could happen again. So now it's your turn. This story ends with your voice. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're here listening, watching, caring enough to reach this point. You can share Luis's story. You can post his name. You can show up at City Hall when they vote on sanctuary policies. You can ask your school board what protections exist for undocumented students. You can bring water to protests. You can call your representatives. And yes, you can hold the damn banner. Because if you don't, ICE will keep showing up where they're least expected, at churches, hospitals, protest camps, weaponizing fear like it's law. They'll keep quoting national security while shattering wrists, separating families, and misfiling children as adults. Look, it's easy to think someone else will act, that your outrage is just a drop in the ocean. But change doesn't begin with mass movements. It starts with one voice refusing to be silent. And if enough voices rise, that's how we shift the tide. So share this story. Comment your city, your outrage, your hope. Donate if you can. Organize if you're able. And if you're undocumented yourself, know this. Your story matters. We see you. We need you. You are not alone. You're not just watching this. You're part of it now. Let's make sure no one disappears in silence again. The street is quiet now. Just the rustle of leaves in a breeze that doesn't know about raids or hashtags or court filings. Street lamps blink overhead. A mother and son walk past you, maybe Daniela and Luis, maybe just someone like them. It doesn't matter. You hold their image anyway. You've seen what silence costs. You felt the crack of tear gas in your throat, heard the hush that follows injustice when it's dressed in a uniform and paperwork. But you've also seen resistance, ordinary, clumsy, beautiful. A hand raised in court, a cardboard sign against armored shields, a voice calling out a name so it doesn't get lost. So breathe. Let the anger soften, not disappear. Let it shape you, not shatter you. You can't fix it all tonight, but you can stay awake. Luis came home. That's a beginning, not an ending. There are still mothers waiting, still names we haven't heard, but you know them now, even if you haven't met. They look like you, they hope like you, and they deserve to be free like you. So when you sleep tonight, let that truth hold you. Let it whisper, not "we fixed it," but "we are fixing it together."